From Ticker, you're watching She's the Boss. Here's Jules Brooke.
Hi and welcome to She's the Boss, which is the show all about women in business and female founders. Now today, and my name's Jules Brooke. Now today I'm really excited because I have the amazing Kate Toon, who describes herself as a misfit writing entrepreneur, and I want to find out all about that. And Judith Bruce from Havana Home, who is our brilliant sponsor, but has a very interesting journey as well. So hi girls. I was going to say ladies, but I hate the word ladies.
Ladies. I quite like the word ladies.
Hi girls. Jules. So lovely to have you on the show. Now, initially I thought I would just ask you, I'm particularly interested in what a misfit writing entrepreneur is. Where did you get that title from?
Well, I think I guess I'm an entrepreneur, but
yeah,
it just sounds a bit cheesy, and it kind of conjures up images of, I guess, men lying on Porsches counting their cash. So, and I haven't really followed the traditional entrepreneur journey.
Oh, good! I'm dying to hear all.
Exactly.
So you're a misfit.
I'm a misfit. I don't quite fit in, and I guess my entrepreneurism is born out of writing.
Okay, so we're going to come back to that in 1 second. Just very quickly, you describe yourself, or you did to me, as a slashy.
Slashy? I was like, what's that?
So I know you said, what is it? What are you slashing between?
I think, like so many people, that's like you do so many things.
Yeah.
So I'm an interior designer / founder of Havana Home / retailer / many things,
and all the other things
that
us women are juggling. Well, your kids are a bit older now. Yeah, it's funny. All right, great. So now we know what you both do. Kate, can you tell me a little bit about your journey as to how you've got to become the Kate Toon?
The Kate Toon, gosh.
Because I'm guessing you started in England, so
yes.
I'd love to know how you went from there to here. And
well, I started out just, did a useless degree in history. Well, I can name every Roman emperor. That's really come in handy.
I bet it has, yeah.
And then worked in events and then advertising.
This is all in England?
All in the UK, but about, a long time ago now, I got a job working on the first ever e-commerce website in the UK for Marks and Spencer's.
Okay.
So that shows how old I am. And that got me into the world of digital and online marketing. Then I came to Australia as a backpacker. I was only supposed to be here for a couple of weeks.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, but I ran out of money after a couple of weeks and tried to get a job, and I managed to get a job as the digital manager of Ogilvy, a digital producer at Ogilvy.
That's not a bad job to
swing
for
not a bad
somebody
job.
that is pretending she doesn't know what she was doing,
Exactly.
but actually you did.
I think I knew a little bit, and I obviously blagged my way into it.
But also I think the UK, certainly I was over there at around 2000, and there was digital. It's just ahead of Australia.
It was ahead,
so you come over and people go, and they go, oh my God, you're
she's
a guru.
Amazing, exactly. And having worked on Marks and Sparks and a few other big brands like that, I looked
all
really
the
cool.
retailers went, oh my God.
Yes, well, little did they know how utterly useless I was. And I worked there for quite a few years, and I went back to the UK and
to live, like thinking that's it. Okay, I'm going to go home.
Yeah, thought I'd have. I was like, have I made a mistake moving to this strange land?
This strange land with beaches and sunshine, and
then I got back to England and was like, what have I done? Why have I left?
Grey skies, buses,
miserable,
black snot when
living in black snot,
and skin on your tea. They're the two things I always think of in England.
And so then I managed to come back about 2 or 3 years later and did a few more advertising jobs, and I was really trapped in the world of advertising.
And were you part of an art director, copywriter thing? Were you doing that, or were you always doing digital?
I did become a copywriter for a while, but I went back into being a producer. And by the end of my career, I was kind of like managing a big team. The next step would have been for me to be GM or something like that. But I was like crying on the bus on the way to work every day.
Adland is a hard graft.
Really hard.
And a lot of people burn out from it.
I had burnt out, but I thought I couldn't leave because I was the major breadwinner, and I didn't know what else I would do. And then thankfully I got up the duff.
It's amazing how that often changes your perspective.
And I was like, I was contracting, so I wasn't going to get maternity leave, and I was like, I better work out what I'm going to do pretty quick.
Advertising in particular doesn't like people to have kids, or didn't when I was younger,
I could have gone back, but it would have still been 12-hour days, and my child would have been in childcare all the time. No judgment on anyone who does that, but it wasn't what I wanted. So I gave up at 5 months, started KateToon.com, and here I am.
No, hang on, there's probably a little bit of
little gap.
So KateToon.com came from the idea of, I'm doing all this digital stuff, I'm going to start teaching people how to do it. Is that what it was?
At that point I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, so if I go with my own name, then I can work it out as I go along. Because I'd done a bit of production. When I started out, I was building websites for people, doing graphic design. I'm sorry to anybody whose graphic design I did. I was terrible. And then as time went on, I kind of realised, copywriting was what I wanted to do, and that was where I could niche, that was where I could make some decent money. And then I moved into this whole genre of SEO, copywriting, writing to please Google and get.
And how long ago was that? Because that was huge with Google for a while, wasn't it? Optimizing your text.
It still is. I mean, it still is.
Okay,
it was
great.
about 11 years ago when I started that.
About that much about SEO, so you're going to be able to explain.
I'll tell you all today.
So, in fact, just before I jump on to Judith, do explain what is it about SEO that attracted you, and what? Yeah, let me just start with that.
Well, I mean, first I should say that SEO is search engine optimization.
Yes,
it's the art of making Google fall in love with your website. Yeah, it's got like a list of 200 things that it wants ish, and you've got to work your way through them. It's like The Bachelor. His bachelor's got his idea of his perfect woman. There's lots of
Google
websites.
has its idea of. Oh my God, that is such a lovely analogy.
I love that analogy.
Yeah. All right. So hold that thought now, because I definitely want you to
expand on
it. Yeah, expand. That's a very professional way of putting it. Judith, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? I'm interested to know how you got into interior design and then wholesaling, and now soon retailing, or retailing as well. I'm not sure.
There's going to be some distinct overlaps here. I always had a very corporate background, and I loved it. I loved all the things that went with it. But when I came back to Australia, I lived in London for 6 years, and
God, we've all ticked that box.
And again, I only went for 9 months, but I fell in love. So
with the country or someone?
Well, with a person, yes, with my husband, but also with the country. It's quite funny because when we came back, I spent 2 years begging him to take me back to London.
Yeah, it's funny. So,
and he was like, "I'm out of Scotland. I'm never going back."
I know. I married an English guy, and he was like, "I'm not going back either."
I even had a dream about it last night, so it actually does come back up. When I got back to Australia, I had decided I wasn't going to go back into a corporate life, but, I was hungry for the money, so I did.
Yeah.
And again, I ended up in a role which I despised, so I got pregnant.
I would say, in fact, I should on this show ask women, because I reckon that'll be a common theme across all of it.
And then when my maternity leave was up, I'd gotten pregnant again, so it was kind of clear that I wasn't going back.
Right.
So I decided to study something, and I'm quite half right, half left brain, so I didn't know which way to go. 1 minute I'm going to be an accountant, and then it'd be
accountant?
Then it'd be like, I'm going to be an artist, and I just went like this for ages.
Because there's a whole thing of, I could actually be anything. What do I want to be? And that's probably the hardest thing for people to decide.
Yeah, it is. It is tricky, and one of my brothers gave me some great advice. He said, stop looking for a job and just do something that you like doing and study something, and it will fall into place.
His wise brother.
Very wise brother. Probably won't watch this, but very wise brother.
You'll have to cut out this little bit and send it to
him. So I did. I decided to study interior design, and then and it was actually because a girlfriend came over and asked me to just do her house for her.
Right.
And I did her house, and then I thought, I could actually do this for a living.
So if someone would dare pay me, I would love to do this.
If someone's going to pay me without me actually having any qualifications, I could do this. So I went off and I studied, and I became qualified, and then I started my design practice, and then, I enjoy it, I love it, but I'm all about the product.
What do you mean by all about the product? About the things that you're putting in the home?
Yes, so I love the stuff.
The sourcing of it all.
Yeah, and I
love shopping, basically.
Well, basically...
I think I want your job.
Me too. Anyone who knows me being paid to shop is like the perfect job. But I do, and I love things that just serve multiple purposes. So I found that I was more interested in getting the right things into people's houses than necessarily the overall look. So I niched it down a bit into focusing on specific places and specific things. And then one day I was going to do some candles, buy some candles for my clients.
Oh, I love this story. You've told me this one.
And, I was looking at these candles, and I came across the wholesale price, and it was ridiculous because it was about 1/10 of what they were retailing for in stores.
Wow.
And I just thought, this is ridiculous. We deserve better. Women deserve better. And I became incredibly outraged. And I'd been after a particular fragrance, the white tea fragrance, which I couldn't get in Australia anyway at the time. You can now, there's a few of them, including mine, which is the best.
Yes, because go on. I was going to say you sell candles, but take us on this journey. I'm far too impatient.
So I thought, well, I'm going to create my own candles with the fragrance I want, but they're going to be the best. So, I did some mucking around and found out what sort of wax is best, what sort of wicks are best, and I obviously wasn't going to make candles because I think I've mentioned this to you before, they'd be full of chips and dog hair and...
That could be a
No, I guess what I love about what you did is that you thought big. So you haven't gone, I'll just pour them at home on the kitchen table and sell them. You've gone, I'm going to put them out there as a wholesale brand
I think
get it out nationally.
That's one of the differences. Because I did have a business background, I always intended it to be a product that I could sell.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a hobby. I wasn't someone who got given a candle kit and made something beautiful and all my mates said I should do it. In fact, all my mates said I was nuts.
I love it when you go against what people say
and
as well.
It took them a long time to buy them. And then as part
that
of...
also happens.
So I started doing that, and it was like, if I'm going to make one fragrance, might as well make 5, might as well make 8, and it went on from there. And now I've got a whole range of products, and I
want to talk to you. We're going to take a break in a second, but I really want to talk to you as well about supporting the female artists, because I think that that's a real point of difference for your candles. And I love the artwork on your packaging. So we will talk about that afterwards. Right now we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back in a couple of minutes and I will be grilling these two women. We're going to find out how Kate took a passion for writing and turned it into a massive business, and we're going to find out a little bit more about Judith's business and how she moved into wholesale from just a love of candles.
This is Ticker.
From Ticker, you're watching She's the Boss. Here's Jules Brooke.
Welcome back to She's the Boss. I'm Jules Brooke and I have the amazing Kate Toon and Judith Bruce with me. Now, both of you have taken something that you really love and turned it into your business, which I think heaps of women want to do. It's what I've done as well. But I think what I'd like to do now is talk about how do you take something that's a passion and turn it into like a real business, like a business that grows. How do you grow it? So can we start with you, Kate? Can you tell me how you went from I'm going to start Kate Toon and I don't know what I'm going to do into the business that you have today? And tell people what that business is too.
Yeah, so I'll start at the end and come back. So now I've got two core businesses. One is the Recipe for SEO Success, where I teach small businesses, e-commerce stores, marketeers how to grapple Google, get more traffic, get more conversions.
So the SEO is directly related to how to be found on Google.
Yeah, how to
easily.
be found. Yeah. These days, if you're not on Google, you're really not on the internet. So that's one of my businesses. There's a big course with that, smaller course. There's a podcast, a membership, a shop. That's one side. I know. And then the other side is the
and there's another bit.
Yeah, the other side is the Clever Copywriting School, where I teach copywriters how to be better copywriters.
Is this copywriters that work at agencies?
All types, freelancers, in-house,
And what about business owners that want to learn how to write copy?
It's not so much for those guys.
Okay.
It is about, because a lot of it is
more
about...
the SEO school.
Yeah, the copywriting thing is also about how, because a lot of copywriters are great writers, but they're not great business people. No. So it's all about, the business side of it, how to have budget and how to win clients. And that's... it's got a job board, a directory, a shop, and then I run a conference, an annual conference called CopyCon.
I think I've heard of CopyCon.
It's fabulous.
I must be on LinkedIn.
You should come. So those are my two big businesses.
Right.
But obviously I started off
with KateToon.com.
With KateToon.com.
And an idea. And a baby.
and a brand new baby. So the first year of my business, it's like my baby was right there. And look, the whole point of being my misfit entrepreneur is I didn't have a business plan. I never sat down and wrote one. I've never had any investment. I've never done a course. I've never had a mentor or a guru or anything like that.
So you are an amazing woman, firstly. There's not a lot that have done that with no help at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is I have had help, but largely it's come from my peers and my customers. So I'm very much like, if I have a three-prong approach.
Okay.
Is it needed in the market?
Yes.
Will it make me money?
Yes.
And will I enjoy it?
Right.
And the enjoy it bit is very important.
Just as important as the will it make money.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't get all three. It makes me money, but I lose my passion for it. So I basically just started out. I found out that the SEO copywriting was the product that people wanted the most, so I niched down into that.
Can I ask how you found that out? Did you do some research?
No, that was what I was getting the calls about.
Okay.
And that was what I could make more money on. And I was putting my rates up higher and higher, and people were willing to pay, and bigger brands were coming in. And then people were saying, gosh, I wish I could learn how to do that. And I was like, well, I could run some workshops. So I ran some workshops. But then at the end of the day, I saw people's eyes were glazed over. And I was like, this is too much to take in a day. Why don't I turn it into a course?
Right.
So I sold the course and said, I'll have this amazing course. And then people signed up. And I went, right, I should build the course now, right? Then I built the course.
I love it that you sold it first, though.
I did, yeah. I wanted proof of concept.
It's a very good trick, really, for a lot of things, and product as well, isn't it? Go out and find if people want it before and see if they'll put their money where their mouth is before you create it.
And that's the mistake I see a lot of people making online. If you can't get 100 people to sign up to a webinar, what makes you think you can get 100 people to buy your $2,000 course? You have to start with that and build it up.
Yeah.
So that's just grown, and then I started one podcast, and I was like, well, I may as well do another podcast.
But how did you get the word out about all of this?
Well, it's
SEO.
It's been largely in the beginning. It was SEO.
So I don't want to lead you down that path.
No,
but it probably was.
In the beginning it was. And they do say that 70% of all business transactions start with a Google search, which I think makes sense. So I haven't invested heavily in Instagram or Facebook in terms of marketing myself. It was a lot of SEO that got me started, but since then the podcast was a real move the needle.
So when did that start?
About 3 years ago I started one.
So that was quite early.
Yeah.
So you basically, and you've kept going, because I know people that started.
I did the copywriting business for about 5 years before I was like, I can't charge any more money. There's a certain amount of hours in the week. So if I keep on exchanging my time for money, this is as good as it's going to get.
Right.
Because there's a ceiling of how much you can charge. Like, this is how much you can charge for a candle, So I was like, I have to work out how to make money while I sleep. The whole, if you don't make money while you sleep.
What's the trick?
Exactly. So that was the passive income. And I started with one template that I sold in a shop, for $30.
So you sell the podcast? Oh. I sell
templates. I sell whatever I can sell.
Right.
And then I started the podcast about 4 or 5 years ago. Then I started another one. And then speaking was a big needle mover for me as well.
Yeah,
so, 1 year
I would say the same for me.
Yeah, huge. In 1 year I spoke at 37 events. And
I think I've beaten you.
Yes.
I think yours are probably bigger.
No, they weren't, and that's the thing. All different sizes.
Yeah, groups
big
of
audience.
12, 30, up to
Just to build up my confidence.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
really
huge
changed.
commitment.
It was, especially when you've got a child and all of that. So, but
and travel.
I took him with me to quite a lot of things.
But speaking isn't something you can do from home, so there's often a lot of travel involved as well.
There is as well, and but I do a lot of Facebook
and you learn a
Lives.
lot.
I do a lot of LinkedIn videos. I'm not consistent in terms of regularity, and 9 o'clock every Monday I do X, but I turn up every day.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing. I turn up whether it's going bad or good, whether I'm feeling happy or sad. I turn up and I try and do something.
Yeah.
And just doing that for 11 years, I just worn people down, I think.
Yeah.
You know? They're just like, oh God, I'll buy it.
It's,
go away.
God,
you know?
yeah.
So
right.
Consistency, I think, and just persistence.
And were you doing a lot of email marketing? Is that sort of how you're getting out to people? So I'm really interested in funnels and things like that.
My sticky little funnel.
Because it is a word that people use all the time, and
Yeah.
a lot of people don't really understand,
what a funnel
or
is.
how to apply it to themselves.
Yeah.
You know, like it's all well and good. I can see, that there'd be this for someone else, but how do I do it with what I do? So
yeah,
how do you do that?
I think, on social media, I've always been very much myself, and social media is the kind of the first step of your funnel, getting people to like you. The next step for me is I have big groups on Facebook. So I have groups on Facebook. It's a really low commitment for someone to join a group.
Yeah.
Yep. But to join the group, they have to give me my email. So I get their email on my list. And then I have a free course. Yeah. Which is 3 days, but it's really good. Like it's better than someone's paid course.
3 days is a free course.
It's just it's a 3-day course with a 10-minute. It's not a huge
Online?
amount of content. Yeah. Just delivered over email. Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Free course. And then I have a free template, and then I give them something else free and something else free.
And by then they're going, she's so nice. I should give her some money. She's given me all this
and
stuff
then I have
for free.
what's called a tripwire product.
Right.
So
Well, what's a tripwire
product? Get me.
Yeah.
It's a low cost product.
Yeah.
It's about $60. That's low cost enough that it's not going to make people freak out, but it gets them into buying from me, because if someone's bought from you once, it's easy for them to buy from you again. Okay. So once they bought that, then there's a $300 product.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, this is my $2,000 course. And then after that, which I only built in the last 2 years, is an ongoing membership, a monthly membership, where you can keep on getting support in your digital marketing journey. Right. So yes, it's a proper funnel, but it didn't happen in that perfect order. I built the $60 product first. That was free to begin with. Right. Then I built the group. Then I built the free course, made the other course expensive. It's been a journey.
And fiddled around with it, because you've got to test as well what's going to work, and something that didn't work that time might work this time, because you've got a bigger profile or more followers or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm actually in the process of redoing a lot of it now, because my model, my 10-day challenge, has been copied so much. Lots of people now have an 8-day SEO challenge and a 5-day SEO challenge. It's like, how imaginative. Right. So I'm now, I need to keep not to compete, but to keep ahead and also keep it interesting for me, I'm going to make something different.
Yeah, and to see us be, and I think the other thing is, if you're going to position yourself as a leader, then you do need to be one of the first to do something. You can't just keep following people, which is, one of the things that happens when you get your stuff out there for free in in the public's hands, that people go, I could actually do that. And in fact, how I'll do it is I'll copy.
Yes,
because I know that works.
I'll do her course and then I'll just copy it.
But I actually find that very flattering. I mean, it completely validates.
Oh gosh, I don't.
Don't you?
No.
I think it validates what you're doing.
I'm validated enough, thank you very much. Go and have your own idea. I mean, it doesn't bother me anymore. Yeah. But you asked me how I got into SEO and why I was passionate about it. I wasn't, but I saw a gap. There's not that many female SEOs in the world. There were none in Australia then. Now there's lots and lots, and lots of them have done my course and are in my membership, which is great. Yeah. But no, I don't take copying as a compliment. It still irks me a little bit. But I've
had a couple of copiers, but I kind of have. The only way I can deal with it actually is to kind of go, well, they think it's such a good idea.
I think our mothers used to tell us that to keep us quiet.
Yes. It's a compliment.
So you feel the same way?
No, I do, because I actually had someone pretend to me that they were going to be a wholesale client, and I gave them lots of samples of my products, and then they turned around and copied them.
Yeah.
So
it does happen.
And it
particularly
happens
in product land. I had a product that was on the market that was a children's feeding product, and we had only got it into a few distributors, and then suddenly it started selling off on Amazon, not on our side. And I went to those people and said, where did you get it? Did a bit of a Google search, and some factory in China had copied it, was sending it all over the place.
Once it goes to China,
so patents, patents, trademarks, all that kind of thing. But sorry, go on. I interrupted you. It was about copying.
Yeah, now I've completely forgotten.
Sorry.
No, it's hard. And I think this is what we're going to talk about. You have to have such a strong brand because as you know, there are lots of different candles. Why would I buy yours over someone else's? The brand.
But also, I would have, if that woman had said to me, said to me, I want to actually do something like that, I would have helped her identify how she could have put her own slant on whatever she was going to create. Yeah. Because there's no point, particularly in a saturated market.
That she did that actually.
Well, it's not evil, but it's a bit lazy.
So she's still around. Is that
I don't know. I don't look.
I love that. See, the competition.
There's no point worrying about it. I've moved on.
No one's going to veer me from it.
It's just frustrating because if in a saturated market like mine, you need a point of difference. So going off and choosing to copy someone's product isn't helping her or me.
No. So what have you, and now here's the perfect time for you to tell us what you have done to differentiate your brand, because I love what you're doing.
Yeah, it's funny though, because it wasn't necessarily deliberate. So I create all the fragrances myself, so you can't go into...
Tell people what your fragrances are. Wait till you hear some of these, because I particularly like the one about cheese and tomato sandwiches. Tell them what that fragrance is.
You always say cheese and tomato. There's no cheese in it.
I know, but okay, tomato sandwiches that you used to have. So what's the fragrance?
Yeah, so one of my best-selling fragrances is Heirloom Mint, which is a tomato and mint candle.
Really? Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
I called it heirloom because tomato didn't sound very sexy.
And what are the other fragrances going? Hit us with them.
We have pink peppercorn.
Yeah, again.
Which, because of all the pepper trees around Australia that we all played under as kids.
My boys nicked mine and have completely put it
down.
Oh,
the candle. I thought you meant the tree.
No, the candle.
And the white tea, of course, because I couldn't get it in Australia at the time.
And Hugh, is that one of your best sellers? Is that one of those
It's my best seller, but I think probably because I talk about it so much.
Okay.
It is beautiful. My orange bergamot is probably really the best seller because I don't talk about it much at all, and it just goes
off the
nuts.
Shelf. Orange is a lovely flavour, smell, I think.
And I have one that's coastal called Sapphire Coast, which is all about sandy beaches and like kissing boys and growing up in the surf. Like
I love the story.
The stories with all of these.
There's a story for all of them because I could.
Yeah. So the next thing that you did, I know, is you went and commissioned some female Australian artists, which I absolutely love that you're supporting those women. To do the packaging.
Yep.
Did you tell them the story behind your fragrances for each of them?
No.
Isn't that
so
interesting?
It's actually,
that's the first thing I would have done.
I actually didn't commission them.
Right.
So I was thinking about repackaging, because my packaging was beautiful, but it didn't have a lot of shelf presence. And most candle companies use, baby blue, pale pink. It's very generic. And so I was looking at really edgy things and trying to do something different. And then one day I was like, I wonder if I could use art. And then I was like, I could support artists, and because I loved the idea of actually being able to help someone else.
Yeah, I love that.
And I love things that can do multiple purposes. So I'm like, well, it's a box. It doesn't need to be a plain box. It could actually be something that helps another person, and then that could help someone else. And I like that about it.
That feel-good factor as well.
So the only artist I in fact commissioned was Sally Brown, because I love her work.
Pink peppercorn
that's
one,
the pink
isn't it?
peppercorn, and I love her work. And she was nearly white tea, so. So I got in touch with Sally through Blue Thumb Galleries and said, would you do this, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like...
Was she really bowled over?
Sally's a pretty well-known artist, and she's done other collabs before. I actually have some drink bottles that she's done,
right.
Probably not bowled over.
You had smaller artists as well, didn't you? So
I had much smaller artists. So then what I did was I worked with my graphic designer, and we trolled through Instagram, and we found existing artwork
that would fit really well.
That we thought would fit well. We mocked it up to see what it would look like, and then we approached the artist about licensing it.
Wow. Because they were chuffed.
Yeah, well,
that's what I'm thinking. I imagine the artists were blown away.
It was really weird because you'd send this email going, I've seen your art. I'm interested to know if you would consider being on the packaging. This is what it would look like. We've mocked it up. You get to sign the box and the name of your thing, and we'll do a lot of promotion because I do massive call outs to the artists all the time on Instagram and stuff, and Sally's actually sold work from that.
Right, great.
And I had one person say no.
Right.
I hope she's regretting that. I don't really. I was disappointed though, and everyone else
happens. I bet she's kicking herself now.
No, I don't know. She probably doesn't even notice. but everyone else was really excited. And when I had a pop-up shop last year in Chatswood, and one of the artists came to see me, and it was very emotional because I hadn't actually met her in person, and told me that she'd been about to paint over that canvas.
Oh, that's a lovely
that's
story.
a bit spooky.
And so
we
got chills, and she's like, it was just not working, and I was going to paint over it, and I didn't think anyone would love it, and it's the orange bergamot.
Wow.
And it's
that's spooky, isn't it? I love that.
And it's our most beautiful, I think. Like, it's my favourite of the
packaging. I want to see it now. Why didn't you bring some?
I know, I didn't even think
they're so easy to carry around, a big box of candles.
All right. Well, everyone will have to look online. Now, we're just going to take another quick break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to hit both these women up for some tips, advice, things you've learned along the way that we might be able to use to help other people. So see you in a couple of minutes.
This is Ticker.
From Ticker, you're watching She's the Boss. Here's Jules Brooke.
Welcome back to She's the Boss. I'm Jules Brooke, and today I've got Kate Toon, who is a misfit writing entrepreneur, and if you watched earlier you would know what that was, and Judith Bruce from Havana Home, who's our sponsor. Now, we've been talking about how you've got to where you got and how you've made some decisions along the way, but in this last segment I'd really like us to kind of offer some advice to people as well. One of the things that I wanted to ask you in particular, Kate, is how, because I know you go out and talk about this, how you can build a brand if you haven't got any money.
Yep.
And I also would really like to know how you can distribute a product if you're starting from scratch. Like, how did you go from that idea to getting it into shops? But let's start with you, Kate. So,
the branding, yeah. I think the first thing to do is to really decide if you want to have a personal brand. So obviously, do you want to be the face of your business?
So if you're talking about building a brand, are you specifically talking about a personal brand?
Well, I think these days all brands
are personal. Yeah, I think social has changed everything.
It really has, and even like the big companies, there's somebody in that business that is the figurehead, that is known. The Steve Jobs or whatever. Yeah. So I even if you've got a product brand or an e-com store, I think you have to make that decision. And obviously, if you're a service-based business, you are are actually selling yourself. So you've kind of got to decide whether you are up for that and how you want to portray yourself. So the first thing to kind of do is think about what your brand values are, and generally they'll be what your values are as a human. So how are you described? Like if you could pick, I'm going to give you a little test now. If you were to describe yourself in a couple of words, what would you say?
Loud and motivating.
Great. Okay, Judith.
Maybe.
Well, I think I'm incredibly funny.
Funny and gorgeous.
It worked.
No, I'm a champion of everyone, so I guess my thing is all about helping everyone.
So motivating,
be their best.
I'd say determined as well. That's what I'm picking up. So picking those core brand values and then pretty much sticking with them, and then having something to stand for or a message that you want to get out there. The analogy I always use is Britney Spears. And when she gets up on stage, everyone will be like, "Sing Toxic" or "Sing Hit Me Baby One More Time," and I'm sure that she's sick to death of singing those, but she built her brand on those, and she has to keep singing those. So what song are you going to sing? And it can be interesting as well if you're coming into a crowded space to have a contrary opinion. So to stand for something to do something a little bit different. We talked about copycats. We come into a new market, we look at what everyone else is doing, and we go, well, that must be working, so we'll do the same. My message would be, if everyone else is doing that, you need to find, you have to do something different. So
be a disruptor. That's what everyone loves. I love being a disruptor in my industry.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean you have to be controversial or rude or talk about politics or religion.
Well, that's good if you do want to do that, but if you're prepared to...
And if you're willing to take the flak that will come your way. So, when I started out, I was a female SEO, and I was very into teaching people how to do it, and that was contrary, because people were like, you can't teach SEO, and also don't teach SEO because you'll do that for a job.
All those SEO, I had the same when I set up Handle Your Own PR, and all the agencies
giving away the
came
magic
out going,
juju.
you're irresponsible, you can't do that for people.
You're cannibalising.
I can.
You're ruining our client base, and I'm not. I actually give them educated clients.
That's right, and
who
then they'll go
understand
and
the value.
use someone to do it for them.
Yeah, so being contrarian, and then I think once you've got your message, you just need to keep banging it out there at every speaking event. You need to go and do speaking events. You need to be making LinkedIn videos. We are now so lucky. We're on television here, but we can all be TV presenters every day.
That's right. And LinkedIn now has that live thing. If you're B2B and you're going to LinkedIn, you can do it live. Facebook, they push it out much further, don't they?
We've got TikTok. Get on TikTok.
Oh my
God,
LinkedIn, my kids are all over that one.
LinkedIn has huge engagement. Like you say something on Facebook, like your posts on your Facebook business page will only be seen by about 3% of the people who liked you, unless you boost them. On LinkedIn, the engagement is so much higher, especially for native video content, so actually recording on the app
LinkedIn,
rather than uploading videos. It makes such a difference, and you're building up that know, like, and trust. And people buy from people they trust. You're building up your expertise and authority, and that's really important for SEO as well. And you just
it doesn't cost you anything.
It doesn't cost you. I mean, it costs you time. There's a time cost. But what you want...
that's the play-off. If you are going to do something for free, then you're going to have to invest time.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the end, if you're a small business owner,
you've got
often
the time.
you have the time, but you don't. Or you might think you don't have the time. But to spend that little bit of time will save you so much money that...
Exactly. I mean, gosh, I'd love to hire a PR person, but it's expensive. And when you're starting out, you can't afford that. When you pay for your SEO, your PR, your marketing, your graphic design.
Your website, your logo, I mean, there's all that kind of stuff as well. And then I presume the only other thing that I just quickly want to touch on you is if you are going to go out with your own brand, you really need to buy a domain with your name in it as quickly as you can.
I mean, I think it's great to have your domain, but again, it can be quite hard if you've got quite a generic name. I'm quite
James
lucky.
Smith
Toon.
I got Jules Brooke.
I'd be maybe coming up with something more playful if your name's James Smith, like the name of your cat or something. I don't know, but something a bit more unusual. Your domain should always be
anotherjane.com.au
exactly.
or something would be fun.
Being playful. And then it's just a case of keeping on, and I think the biggest issue I see with small businesses is people just give up. They're like, this hasn't given me the immediate result that I thought I would get. Look at her, she's doing amazingly. They're comparing their now with your 11 years later, and they just give up. And it's like, you've got to cling on.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it? Because you just go, you're all, I mean, there are some great memes that go around on social media that and I think one of them I love, and it's a picture of somebody building a tunnel. And they've gone so far through the mountain, they're about that far from the end, they go, this is too hard, I'm giving up. And you go, you are that close to the light.
You just don't know, do you? And it can be hard to keep going when things aren't.
But to me, that is really the sign of a true entrepreneur, is somebody who keeps going. Because so many people, I mean, firstly, coming up with an idea is really easy. Everyone can do that. Hardly anyone then takes that idea and implements it, and then the people that do implement it, hardly anyone takes it right through to the nth degree and actually turns it into a success.
That's such a good segue, isn't it? Because I'm like, how did you go from like thinking I want to have a candle to like what?
And why choosing wholesale? So come on, you tell us.
Well, certainly creating a business of any sort is not for the faint-hearted.
No.
Because it's hard,
but
and
it's
it doesn't happen.
immensely rewarding as well. Sorry, I have to always put the positive spin on
it. But sometimes I'm sure we all wish we just worked for the man
again. It's a hard
again.
graft. It's not that you build it and they will come.
No.
They definitely don't come. But I read so many posts now on various business pages, and they say, go get it, you can do it, you can do it. And sometimes you can't.
No. Yeah, not everyone's cut out
and
for it.
not everyone is cut out for it, because you will get to the point probably just before success that you're broke and you're exhausted. And it's
your friends and family are going, give up, you never should have done it in the first place, it was the right, I told you shouldn't be doing it.
And your husband's like, when are you going to get some real money or whatever, and that's just before the turning point. But in terms of getting a product wholesale, it was always my plan.
Right.
Okay, it was always my plan to be a wholesaler. I think the most important thing is to take any opportunity that comes your way. I know that my first pop-up shop was in West Elm, and it was organised before I even had a product.
So you just basically made the product and then you just went round to places and said, when do you buy the product?
How do you get the distribution?
Yeah, that's what I don't get either.
So I did. I went round to, I built a website and no one came. And I did make cold calls and ring people, and I got a couple of stores interested.
Do you use a distributor? Because there are people that do that there's a margin. Obviously, you pay them to do it, but they take that away from you. Did you do that, or did you?
No, I'm looking at the moment for an agent in a couple of states.
Right, but the rest of it you've done yourself. You've got on the blower.
Yeah, I got on the blower.
Did
I did a trade show.
Trade shows. Was that the Reed Gift Fair? Is that the one that you used for your industry?
Yes, but it's not the right one for every industry. So, there are different things. But for me, it's been fantastic.
Right.
Really, really successful.
Because they are expensive, and a lot of people kind of go, do I want to spend that 5 or 6 or 10 grand? It's going to cost me to have the stall.
Oh, wow.
But if you have a whole lot of retailers that are going past and looking for things in their store, it can be amazing.
But the other thing too is the money doesn't come back for a long while later. So one of my biggest stockists I met last February at the Reed Trade Fair, and they called me 5 months later.
Right.
So it's not you don't get your money back
right away.
You've got to play the long
game. I
think
that's
right.
True
That's right.
And for me, I actually didn't follow them up.
Oh, that's nice.
Because I was a bit scared.
Slap, slap, slap.
I was like, oh, they're a big deal, I can't ring them. But they rang me.
Wow,
and that was luck.
But how?
There is some of it. I mean, there is
Yeah.
a bit of luck in there as well. I
wouldn't think it's
honest.
luck. It's because they heard about you.
No, they
and
loved
saw
it
you
and they engaged. But I should have followed up. So I think the really important thing is you've got to get your product out there and visible.
Yeah.
The other thing that people don't think about as much too is that if they're looking at getting into stores, they're ringing the stores. But you actually have to create the demand as well.
So that people can walk in and ask.
You're still selling to the consumer.
Right. So you go in. So because I know I've worked with in PR with a whole lot of wholesalers in the past, and they would say, okay, and I'll just use a very big example, but we'll get it into Bunnings, but Bunnings have told us that we have to market it. So it's our job to drive the consumers into their store, and you get that with the smaller stores as well.
Absolutely. And I've had a few of them say, well, what are you doing?
Right.
And what are you going to do?
Well, I'm making the candles.
But I do a lot. Like I give them photos. Like if I have photography done, I give it to my stockers for them to use on their media.
Have beautiful photography.
I do spend a bit of money on photography.
It's so worth it. I would have to say that would be my tip for the day.
Especially
would be
for product,
spend money
it's
on
vital.
photography. But also, I mean, in PR, if you don't send out good images that illustrate what it is that you do. So it's not all about just the headshots. It's about somehow or other showing what you do.
It's about the copy as well. Like even just then when you were describing the kissing boys under the tree thing, and like those stories, because people can't smell it.
No.
You can't smell it. So you have to make them mentally smell it.
And
that's why really great
really
product
advice.
descriptions. Great for SEO, as we know.
Yes.
But you're trying to make people feel like they've touched it and held it in their hands, and you can do that with a photo to a degree. But words can be much more evocative. I think.
Yeah. And of course, in my business, words and images. But I'm not going to say anything more.
But also, there's no excuse for poor images these days.
No,
the phones are so good. The apps you can get for editing. I mean, I have both professionals. I quite often give bloggers product, and they will style them and send me back the photos. I use that a lot on my socials because that's then helping them.
And there are stacks and stacks of female photographers as well as males, but lots of female photographers looking for people to do work with.
Yeah.
And the $500 or $1,000 you might spend, you'll get that back a million times. You'll be able to use it all over your website, all over your social posts, all over your marketing, PR, whatever it might be. So, sorry, anyway.
Well, no, it's true, because one of the girls that approached me was an Instagram photographer, and she did such beautiful photos that 2 years later I'm still using them, you know, like they're gorgeous. So
wow. All right, now Kate, very quickly, I read something on your website that I just have to grill you on.
Okay.
Well, you can't put it up on a website and not expect me to ask. So you were the first red chairperson for Graham Norton. How did that happen?
Well, gosh, I just went to be a guest on the show, and they have producers that come out into the queue as you're queuing and ask for funny stories, and you know, we'd had a glass of wine, so I told a story. And I just think they, you know, ostensibly picked me out of a hat, but they said afterwards it was always going to be you. And I went on with Kylie Minogue and Ian McCaskill, who's a weatherman.
And did you sit on the couch
I sat
in
on
those
the couch,
days?
and you can watch the video on my website. And the thing is, that happened so long ago, and I sort of tell it as a little anecdote, and people are like, why don't you have that on your website? And I'm like, because it's so awkward.
But also,
it's just a funny little story.
No one used to watch Graham Norton.
Yeah, no,
I remember when it started in England. I was living in England when it started.
It was the first year of his show, the first year. And I told a funny little story. I don't have the full clip, which is unfortunate. I only have the
But you didn't have to sit on a red chair and get tipped either.
No, they changed that later. But they just, I think, saw the value of picking random people out of the audience and having them on. And he stopped at one point and he went, Kate, your chat show gold. And I was like,
it was worth it for that.
It was.
Pop out my chest. Now, the other thing I want to talk with you, because we're coming to the end of the show, is you've got a book coming out. Can you tell us what the book's about?
It's called Be More Sharp.
I feel a bit Graham Norton, actually.
I know. I'm chat show gold. It's called, so my previous book was called Confessions of a Misfit Entrepreneur, which is how I started my business, pretty much what we've been talking about today. Next one's called Be More Shark, and it's about being fearless in business. So, you know, doing all the things we've done, not being frightened of calling back the person, going out there and having your pop-up shops or whatever it may be, public speaking, whatever is your fear. And for many people, it's getting started.
Yes.
But the weirdest fear I've heard so far is people being fearful that they actually will be a success.
No, I don't
think what they will do.
No, I think it's that imposter thing. I think that's more common than you think it is,
actually.
Exactly.
And so how do you overcome that? How do you keep on turning up? How do you deal with trolls? How do you deal with copycats? Because these are all things we're frightened of that hold us back. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So is that out now?
No, I have to finish it. It's a work in progress.
Okay,
but
so later this year?
Yes, hopefully June. This year? Yeah, hopefully.
All right, fantastic. So both of you, can you tell everyone where they can get hold of you if they want your Havana home? Are they best going to your website to find retail stockists?
My website is Stockists. So it's havanahome.com.au.
Havanahome.com.au.
You can also Google it because she's good at SEO.
Yes.
I've done Kate's course.
And you can Google Kate Toon too, but if you didn't want to, where would they go to?
KateToon.com. Pretty easy, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much for coming on the show today. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you've learned a lot from these two amazing women. My name is Jules Brooke. I'm the founder of Handle Your Own PR, and I every week interview incredible women about what it's like being a boss and what they've learned along the way. So I hope you've enjoyed it today, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week.
This is Ticker, your new source for news.